One of my favorite verses in the Bible is John 1:14, and the eternal Word was made flesh, and he dwelt among us. See, this is something about intercession. Intercessors don't live in glass cathedrals up there in heaven. If this teaches you anything about the nature of God, God did not stay in eternal bliss, enjoying his nice, holy club. A true intercessor isn't happy living in glass cathedrals. A true burden of intercession will throw you into the dirty, will throw you into the ugly, into the brokenness, into the pain and rejection and all of the pain that's associated with the fallen world. Look at 1 Timothy 2:5. I love this one. For there is one God and one mediator between God and men, the man, Christ Jesus. He is the man. He is the intercessor. He is the man. I love that. You're like, my goodness, we're going in. I want you to behold him. He was born into the world he created. Aren't you glad he came to get into our dirty? Aren't you glad he joined? And I want to tell you, of all the things Jesus came to bring the earth, the death and the resurrection and the ascension is the pinnacle. But friends, I want to tell you, for 3.5 years, Jesus modeled a life of intercession. He modeled a life of intercession. Many times, a long time before daylight, he would go and pray. He prayed so much that the disciples asked him, teach us to pray. It was worth the trip from heaven to earth for Jesus to teach us how to pray. Jesus came to bring the revelation of Abba to the planet. He came to connect us to our heavenly home. Can you put Hebrews 5:7? He prayed in joy, rejoicing when the 70 returned. Jesus prayed in good times. He prayed early morning. He prayed midday. He prayed late at night. And Hebrews 5:7, it says, who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with vehement cries and tears to him who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his godly fear. Jesus was an agonizing prayer warrior. The God-man warred in prayer. Matter of fact, his will was surrendered to the Father in the Garden of Gethsemane. Do you know that the cross was won in prayer before it was ever manifested? That's the place where your will gets surrendered to the will of God, is in the place of prayer. That's where your will comes under his will. And you go, God, not my will, but I want yours done. Calvary was won in prayer before it was ever manifested. Jesus prayed in intense agony. Luke 22 says angels appeared to strengthen him. He prayed, he prayed, he prayed. The great intercessor prayed. And then he climbed up on that cross. And the greatest prayer meeting ever was when Jesus was the quietest and when he was led as a lamb to the slaughter. Put Isaiah 53 verse 12 up here. Isaiah 53 verse 12. The very last verse of Isaiah 53, the suffering servant song of Isaiah. Isaiah 53:12. It says that he made intercession for the transgressors. Look at that. You see that last verse? The greatest prayer meeting ever was when Jesus was suspended between heaven and earth. And he was led as a lamb to the slaughter, not opening his mouth. And through the cross, he was disarming principalities and powers. The loudest prayer meeting ever was when his will was the most surrendered. Intercession is not only a loud prayer meeting, it's a surrendered will to God. It's a surrendered will to the call of God. That's when you make intercession in your homes. You want to see atmosphere shift? Surrender to the will of God and move in humility. Move in the opposite spirit of the same cycle that's affecting your marriage. enter into the way of the cross and watch the atmosphere shift with not saying something. Not saying something disarms powers. Whew. That's because the cross is the highest pinnacle of intercession. I love this. Can you put Hebrews 2 up here? Hebrews 2:14. I'm going to give you a lot of verses tonight. If I say a verse, go camp there for 6 months. Hebrews 2. He hung on that cross and he died. I love this. Inasmuch then as the children have partaken of flesh and blood, he himself likewise shared in the same, that through death he might destroy him who had the power of death, that is the devil, and release those who through the fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. Jesus killed death through death.